characteristics of public goods? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any idea how to answer this from your notes from today or from class or anything else?
I think
There's keywords they're looking for here. So have you heard of non-excludable and non-rival?
I've heard of non-rival, not non-excludable.
Okay. So these are the two words they're looking for part A: non-excludable and non-rival or non-rivalrous. So now we can talk about what they actually mean. And you gotta be really careful here. They're not necessarily like you can't just use your your inference skills. Do either of these? So you said you've heard of non-rival, right?
Yes.
Okay, so non-rival means that like one person using it does not prevent another. So for example, an example of that is like a park. If you go to the park, it doesn't prevent me from using the park.
Okay.
So and this is where that's where I don't really like the words, but non-excludable is you can't, I don't know where they want to use, they use the word exclude in the definition I don't really like, but it's impossible for one person to prevent another from using it.
Wait, but wouldn't that just be the same thing? Because non-rival, you're saying like one person can be in the park, but another person can also be in the park, and it doesn't affect each other.
This is like think of a door around your door. There's a door to enter your home. Like I can't just walk into your home.
Okay.
Like the non-rival is more like they don't use it up by using it. I'm trying to think of a better example. Like fishing. If you were to go fishing and you caught all the fish, that prevents me from using it.
Okay.
So like a fishing is not non-rival, but we're trying to think of things where like the fact that one person is there doesn't mean another person can't use it. So I mean, sometimes they use, do you remember any definitions or not? Sorry, any examples that they used in class so I can try to explain them?
For non-rival?
Or either of these, yeah.
I think she said what are they called? Fast food places like McDonald's, Jack in the Box.
Okay. Okay,
Because
so the one I'm looking at here in an article is a slice of pizza. So
that works.
So let's use a slice of pizza. If you have a slice of pizza, I can't take the pizza from you.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, to be fair, I mean a piece of pizza is a private good.
Right.
Okay. So let's not do it. Let's talk about public goods. I'm trying to think of some good public goods. So radio is often considered a public good. Like if you're listening to the radio, which I know we don't do anymore, that doesn't prevent me from listening to it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So let me text in the. Sorry, let me snip in the definitions, because I am sort of using I'm using the words, I'm overlapping the words too much, but don't write these down word for word, because I mean, this is from a textbook.
Okay.
The non-rivalous is about prevention, and the other one is about exclusion, which I feel like is very close, but non-excludable means it is so costly to exclude someone from using it that you would never do that. And non-rivalous means that basically everyone has access to it.
Okay.
Let me look at some better examples of public goods, because I think you also need those. All right, so here's a public good here. So like the air we breathe is an example.
Oh, okay.
Parks are the main one, but give examples of each, explain why the public sector. So like air. Okay. Another one that often gets talked about is the defense, national defense.
National defense?
Yeah, like the army,
Oh, okay.
military, things like that. Police, fire.
Right.
Roads. The education that we have. Like that's a good example. Like I can't, like let's say I was pick your richest guy in the world right now, whoever that is, which changes daily. Like that richest person in the world can't like pay enough money to make it so that you can't get an education or I can't get an education.
Right.
And that's the non-excludable. It's more of like the financial part. Like you can't attempt to like overtake it, because it just would be too costly. Like nobody has that much money to overtake everything, is the idea.
Right. Okay.
Okay, is that sufficient for that?
Yes.
Okay, and you probably have to write some sentences. I mean, that's not really my strength, but I'm giving you the macro ideas, the big ideas here, and hopefully you can convey that into some words. And if you do go to the internet, please rewrite these so that you avoid any issues with plagiarism.
Right. Yes, sir.
All right. Explain how the government determines the quantity of public goods to provide. How is this different than the public sector? And identify two public goods that promote economic growth. Explain why these goods or services are good for the overall economy. Okay. Do any of the answers there's like 1, 2, 3 questions here. Do any of them stand out to you for how to answer them?
Explain others. Yes. No.
Okay, so the government is different than the public sector. The government has control.
Why does the government have control? But
The government runs certain things in our world. So they run things that are too big for anyone else to run, like education, national defense, things like that, infrastructure, the things that are too big for like a state to try to control.
okay. Okay.
And that's different than the public sector. I mean, it's not a park. I mean, there are national parks, but the government, I mean, in truth, I don't really know the answer to this question, because like the government gets a certain amount of money, they have certain authority. I don't know how they decide how much that they can control here. So let me check the web, but we can get the answers to some of these other questions. Just want to be careful here and how we're doing this. This is more of a conversational type of thing. Like
Mhm.
there's not necessarily like a perfect right answer here. The government, though, they tend to use cost benefit analysis. Was that at all talked about today?
Cost benefit analysis. Yes.
Okay.
Last week I didn't know the cost today.
You don't have, okay. So the cost benefit analysis is like, how much does it cost? How much does it benefit? So like the military costs a lot of money,
Right.
but what is the benefit? Well, it protects our borders, protects us from invasion, protects us from the threat. So it's hard to put a number on that, but it's pretty expensive.
Right.
And there's a reason no one has tried to invade this country in like 200 years. Yeah,
Right.
approximately.
Okay.
The Spanish-American War was in the late 1900s or 1800s, but I think that's probably a sufficient answer to that. Somehow incorporating cost-benefit analysis for that. Like
Right.
the government could offer free internet to everyone, but what would that cost? Well, they'd have to take over every internet service provider, and we already have internet that's relatively cheap, so they probably wouldn't do that. So they have to be
Right.
very careful about what they actually want to take over.
Okay.
Okay, explain how this is different than the public sector. So the public sector is like you and I. We tend to do things that are best for us, not necessarily for everyone else. Like, are you concerned about, I don't know, the well-being of every single person in your neighborhood?
No, not really.
Probably not. So the government tries to to provide public goods, the good to the world, but as individuals, we have a lot harder ability to do that. So this is in the form of public goods that we just talked about.
Mhm.
Okay, so the thing to talk about with number 2 is, what are 2 public goods that promote economic growth? And so we kind of already talked about a list of that. Education's a big one.
Education is definitely a big one. Yes.
Okay, and the reason is the more educated you are, the more you can do.
Right.
So while some people get education, they don't do anything with it. Most people use it to go on and create something, do something with it.
Right. There's another one would be like, um,
So here's another one. I don't think these are that obvious. I'll say infrastructure.
ooh,
Okay, so we're talking about roads, bridges, tunnels, basically anything that allows transportation to occur.
okay.
That's important, because if you can't move goods and services from point A to point B, you're you're really limited. I mean, we can't imagine it, but the way people lived even just 200 years ago is they didn't really move around that much. Whereas you and I can get on a plane, or we can get something from Amazon, or whatever we want to do. Pretty much, we can go pretty much anywhere we want at any time, or get anything at any time.
Right. Right. Okay.
So that kind of leads into 3 for both of these. Like, why are these goods and services good for the overall economy? The smarter, more diverse population, more educated population tends to do what's called specialize.
Right.
Probably talked about that earlier. We're not
Yes.
all farmers. We're not all working in factories. Some of us go to a doctor's office. Some of us go to a school. Some of us literally do anything. I mean, you can, but we're not worried about putting food on our table. By creating it, we go and do the work that we're most suited to do. And I guess we sort of already talked about the infrastructure allows transportation of goods and services. So that's your 3 goods and services. But again, this is more of a conversation to be had. It's not necessarily like a Matthew gives you all the answers and you just agree with it. Like if you disagree or you want to bring up something, I mean, that's part of this.
Right. Right. Thank you. For some reason, I don't remember going over this particular topic
Okay.
in class, but so that's why I'm kind of just agreeing every now and then.
Sounds good. So if you're good on that, we can move to 2A. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. So 2A. Says assume that flu shots have spillover benefits that improve society as a whole. Explain 2 positive externalities associated with flu shots. So first of all, what is a positive externality? Do you remember that from class?
That I do remember. A positive externality is kind of like something that affects someone outside of the consumer or the producer, like a third party, in a
Okay.
positive way.
Yeah. So like if you get a flu shot and that keeps like your sister from getting the flu, that's a positive externality.
Right.
Or your mom's able to go to work because she doesn't get sick, or you're able to go to work because you or school. Those are all positive externalities.
Right. That makes sense.
So that the idea is that third party is getting something, quote, air quotes, free by you doing the right thing.
Right. Yeah.
If you consider that the right thing.
For doing a better thing.
Yeah. So a couple of other things that come to mind here. So obviously, like fewer people get sick, and that kind of leads to, either working more, or I don't know, more fun activities. I mean, being sick is awful. You end up just being in bed all day. Reduced healthcare costs.
Right.
So some of these are not obvious, initially, but if you don't get sick, if your family doesn't get sick, if you don't have to, go in for more serious stuff, I mean, that saves you money versus the, relatively inexpensive cost of the shot.
Yeah. Okay. And then for who receives, it would be third party, right? Like a third party
So
system.
it's always a third party. Yeah. I mean, and it's kind of weird when you say that about your family, but they're not you. So they're a third party.
They are a third party.
Maybe bring that up at dinner sometime and see how well that goes over.
They could just turn around and say, I'm the third party.
Yeah. You got to be careful with that. Now, do you type up your answers? Do you write these up? How do you normally submit your work here for this?
I usually write down my answers on a separate sheet of paper, and then I
Okay.
take a picture of it and send it in, or turn
Good.
it in with the
Okay.
thing.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. So supply and demand. I would assume by this time in the course, you're pretty well versed in this. for this year.
Yes, I am.
So you've got Q, you've got P, and we care about a positive externality.
Mhm.
All right, so we got supply, demand. What kind of labeling does your instructor want here with these?
For
Like, do you just label them like Q star and P star? What do you do for those?
QE and then PE.
QE and PE. Okay, that's fine. And then we have to figure out what's going to happen next. So what I'm not clear on here is whether this is a supply or demand change, because I mean, that can actually affect both.
It can indeed affect both, which is
Yeah. So what do they want? What does your instructor want here? Sorry, that's sort of rhetorical. I'm piecing this together as we go.
hmm.
All right, give me just a moment here to scour the webs here for a better resource.
Take your time. I'm still trying to figure out what she wants to.
I mean, I see some stuff for the next question.
Hmm. Do you think maybe it's a supply change? No, it would be a demand change, right?
I think it's a demand change is probably what they're looking for. So I would go D1 to D2 here. And that's generally the positive externality direction.
Right, because it's
General.
because more people are getting happy over it, so there's going to be a more demand
The
in it.
demand should increase for it. All right. So what that does, obviously, is it pushes out the quantity, and I don't know what you do for that. Do you just label it Q2, Q
I think
star,
Q2,
Q2, and then same thing with the price,
P2.
P2, like that. So negative would obviously go in the other direction. So
Yes.
you gotta be very careful with remembering which direction it would go. Sometimes it's not intuitive with that. Is there any other thing I want to say on that? So there is yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so let's go to part B or part C. Sorry, part C. Use MSB and MSC to explain if flu shots are being overproduced or underproduced by the free market. Is this referring to something else, or is this just?
No, this is still.
This is, but there's not like another page or something that this refers to something in class.
Oh yeah, it refers to the marginally social.
Yeah, the marginally social benefit and marginal social cost.
Yeah.
Marginal social benefit and marginal. Yeah, but I mean, it's not referring to. I mean, that's it, right? It's not. There's not like something else.
No, not that.
Okay.
know of.
Okay. So the idea is that there is a place where the curves intersect. So there's like the marginal social benefit,
Mhm.
marginal social cost, and then there's this marginal private cost. Maybe I haven't talked about that.
We have a little bit. And the marginal private cost is like, um, how much no, I don't remember. I know
Okay,
we
so,
went, I don't remember.
so um the idea is that there's there's a market equilibrium, which is here,
Mhm.
where the social benefit, which is the demand, equals the private cost, but it doesn't always uh, equal where it should be for the social cost. I don't really
Okay.
like that explanation, but essentially there's what's called some dead weight loss in this region.
Right.
And because the like where it should be is for the social benefit is we'll call this is QE and PE, and then Q um
2.
2 and P2, they represent where it would be for the best social case, but unfortunately um it's not where the market wants to be.
So the socially optimal would be Q2 and P2,
Yes,
but the market is producing at QE and PE.
that's right.
Okay. And then the reason for that is because they are underproduced in the market.
Well it's are flu shots overproduced or underproduced? So they they end up overproducing them because
Mhm.
they want more people to take them. Um,
Oh, because they're supposed to be at Q2, but they're at QE, so they're overproducing.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Huh. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes some sense. And so, hmm.
So the free
Okay.
market failed because you would think if they were overproduced, everyone would get one,
But they didn't.
but they don't. So every year they throw away flu vaccines. They did the same with COVID vaccines as well. They expire, people don't want them.
Right. Yeah, that is something very bad that they keep doing.
Yeah, and but see, the thing is, you're not getting the full picture. I mean, there's subsidies involved. There's promotion of these things. It's complicated.
Hmm.
It's not as simple as like you just would think, if it's good for everyone would do it. Some people choose not to do things that are good for themselves.
Yeah, like smoking.
Right. And taxing cigarettes doesn't affect people that smoke because they keep doing it.
Right. Yeah.
So it's these issues are really complicated. I mean, I would, if I were a student today, I would ask for really simplistic examples, because there's so much politicizing of various things that it's sometimes hard to get the real answer. Um, but then it gets boring. It's like talking about a slice of pizza for everything. You can't do
She,
that.
one of the things my teacher keeps bringing up, because she has like a 6-year-old son, right? Her son gets this weird cereal called Creeper Crunch. So whenever she gets the chance to bring up anything, she uses Creeper Crunch.
That's a bit
Certain-
odd. It's a bit odd because it's not really relevant to you guys as students.
No, but it's really funny.
Okay. I hope it's clear.
It is somewhat.
All right. All right, let's move on here to part D. We kind of already answered it. So so one of the things the government does do that I can tell you for sure is like there is a cost to making these flu vaccines. And what they do is they provide a subsidy to the manufacturer so that they're covered, so that when you go to Walgreens and want to get a flu vaccine, you can just get one. There's no money. They make it easier for that. They also do promotion
Mhm.
of it. You know, every once in a while you'll see a government ad, something that says, you know, hey, don't forget to get your flu vaccine.
Right. Yeah, that is right.
So I guess one thing we can talk about are subsidies, which help to lower the cost for the customer.
Right. And I forget, subsidies are good for the customer, right? But taxes are bad for the customer, but good for the
Well,
producer.
I mean, okay, I really, I want to help you with this class, but I also want you to use your knowledge. So if the government gives the um, flu vaccine manufacturer a subsidy, they give them money. Where do you think that money comes from?
The government.
But who does the government get the money from?
Um, us.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like it's not free. You probably heard that from the beginning of the class. There's nothing that's free. So when they're transferring money to their it's really our money that they're using, or tax money that's collected.
I see.
So it's hard not to get political when you talk about this stuff. But now in terms of subsidies, they're generally good for the person producing them because they have assurances that they're going to get the money that they need to cover their costs. Like if you and I started a flu vaccine company and nobody bought our flu vaccines, that would be bad. We would go out of business pretty quickly. But if we knew every year that the government was going to buy, you know, or subsidize 1 million vaccines, hey, we're in business. Is that clear?
Yes.
So the taxes affect the person paying for it. So if they're taxed, then you and I are going to pay a tax on the flu vaccine. So the other thing here is promotions, you know, advertising.
Right. Yeah, that would.
That's hey, don't, you know, here's the benefits of doing this thing.
Right. Okay. Here are the benefits, and then like why it's a good thing being produced.
I mean, it improves efficiency because you never want supply to exceed demand or demand to exceed supply, because what you don't want is shortages or surpluses. So we saw that at the beginning of COVID. Once the vaccines were out, there were shortages. They didn't have enough to go around. And then so many got made that now there's a surplus. And if you don't like that, you can think of houses, you know, there's sometimes there's a shortage, sometimes there's a surplus. Markets are most efficient when there are no shortages or surpluses.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So
Well, you
should we
said
keep,
you
sorry, go ahead.
said markets are better when there aren't shortages or surpluses.
That's right. They're
What
the
about
efficient. Go ahead.
what about perfectly competitive? Like if you're in another if you're in a firm and one market is having shortage while you have a surplus, doesn't that mean like if you were in the same firm and you guys work together, you could effectively make the socially beneficial amount?
In the short term, yeah, but in the long term, somebody will come in to address that problem.
Oh, okay.
So like Black Friday is a great example of like some of this. So, people want a TV, right? So I mean, if you and I sold TVs, that's, and somebody else runs out, well, we have TVs that we can sell, but so does the guy down the street. He's going to find a way to sell TVs too.
Right.
So you'll at some point you'll talk about short term and long term.
Mhm.
But I don't know if you're there yet in this class, but that's when the curves, so like when the curves move, the question is, well, is that where it is, or will something else happen to adjust? Like, will that become the new long run position?
Right.
And we're not,
Okay.
there's a lot of things that it could impact that, but markets are most efficient when you have the right balance. Not too much and not too little, kind of the just right philosophy.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So do you want us to keep going with number 3, or do you want us to go on to some other topic, or some math? What would you like to? Of
Can we do some math?
course.
Um, so we were in class today, we went over the rules of no, the laws of sine.
Law of sines, yeah. So for law of sines, the thing that you're looking for is what I call an angle side pair.
Right.
And if that's not clear, what I mean by that is you have big A and little a, or you have big B and little b, or you have big C and little c. Now, law of sines can be used for 2 purposes. You can either find an angle or a side.
Right. Okay.
And there's another law of some things that you're going to learn here probably tomorrow, law of cosines, but you have to know when to use it. So this angle side pair is really important. You have to be able to recognize that.
Right.
So do you have some homework that you want us to do? Do you want me to pull up some problems? What would be most helpful for you?
Could you pull some problems?
Of course. Yeah, just give me 30 seconds here to find some. And if you ever want to split the time up more evenly, just please, let me know so I don't overdo it talking about econ stuff.
No, actually, I would probably need more help in econ. So this
Okay.
is totally appreciated.
Yeah. All right. So here's a law of sines problem. So the it may not look like it at first glance, but it is. So I had mentioned, hey, you need an angle and a side pair. So angle A is, do we know big A over here? Or I'm sorry, little a
No.
over here? No.
No.
We know angle B, but do we know side over here?
No.
And we know this side over here, but do we know the angle across from it?
No.
No. So you might think, well, hey, Matthew, you just said you have to know it. Well, don't forget that the sum of the interior angles in a triangle adds up to 180. So you can find that missing angle. If you have the other 2, you can always find the missing angle.
Right. Okay.
So we need to find that missing angle. It's looks like it's 40 degrees. So now we have a side angle pair. Do you agree with that? Like the angle on the side across from, do you see that?
Yes.
Okay,
So that would,
so that's good. Like that's our check, that's our checkbox. Okay, we can use law of sines. Now, my preference is to always put the thing that you're trying to find, which in this case is AC, so I'll call it little b. Put the thing you're trying to find in the top left. So it's b over sine big B
mhm,
equals. Now you got to use the one that's given, so it's little c over sine C. So it's either sides on top, angles on the bottom, or another variation. You can switch everything so that the angles are on top and the sides are on the bottom.
right.
Okay, and now you substitute in what you know. So you know big B is 22, and little c is 24.
Mhm,
Angle C is 118.
okay.
So now we have enough information to be able to solve this. We only have one unknown. We can isolate B. Is this similar to something you've seen in class today?
Yes.
Okay. So you multiply both sides by sine 22. So B is equal to 24 sine 22 over sine 118. Very important to make sure the mode of your calculator is in degrees. If you're taking any other math classes or physics, just be very careful. You always have your mode in the right one. So do you have a calculator handy?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you try calculating this? Just to make sure you're comfortable with doing this calculation.
So it'd be 24 sine of 22.
Divided by the sine of 118.
Divided by sine 118. I got 10.182437003.
Yeah, so we'll call it 10.2. Perfect.
Good.
Okay, so let's look at another one here. Okay, let's say I wanted you to find little a here.
Okay.
So just like the last problem, you are not given the third side of the triangle, and you do need it. You do need the third side of the triangle there. So I mean, many ways to do it, but 53 plus 44 plus big A equals 180. And you need to solve for A.
Right. So it'd be you subtract 180, or no, you subtract 44 from 180
And 53 from 180.
and 53. So that gets us to 83.
Yeah, just having a little technology problem here. Yeah, so A is 83. All right, so now I always like to put the thing we're trying to find, which is A, in the top. And it's always paired with the sine of the angle there associated with it. And then you want to use the other one that's given. So in this case, the pair that's given is the B.
Right.
So that
Yeah.
means that means side B over sine big B. So you're supposed to have 3 of the 4.
3 of the 4. What?
Yeah, you're supposed to have 3 of the 4 of these things that you write down. Like
Oh, yeah. Okay.
you have big A, you have little b, and you have big B. You're like, if you don't have 3 of the 4, you can't do this.
Right. Okay.
Because you could write C over sine big C, but you don't know little c.
You don't know little c, but you do know big C.
That's right. But then you have too many
You have
things
too
you
many
don't know.
unknowns and you have to,
Yeah.
yeah,
You have to do something else. You target the one that you know and use the thing that you use the other things that you know. So sine of 83 equals 7 over sine 44.
44.
And you solve this exactly the way we just did.
So multiplying by sine of 83,
Yeah.
it'd be sine or 7 times sine 83.
Just grab a calculator if you got one.
Divided by sine 44, which is 10.0017. So 10.002, right?
Yep. I just go 10 on that, but that's perfect. Okay, now so there's several other types of problems you might have in this part of the course, but we don't have time to cover them all.
Right.
But the principle still applies. So the next type of problem we would try to solve is to solve for the angle, which we don't have time for, but that would be where to pick up next time, or something new, of course.
Right.
But that is it, Joaquin. That's it for us for tonight. Thank you for letting me help you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'll see you next week, same time.
All right. See you
All
next
right.
week.
Have a great night.
How was
Bye
your
now.
Thanksgiving?
I'm sorry.
How was your Thanksgiving?
That was good. It was good. Definitely some time off, enjoyable, but it's a pretty busy, hectic for me for the next couple of weeks. Lots of people like yourself needing help. So it's good. Good
See.
though. Good to be busy.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to run. Thanks so much.
Bye. Have a
Bye.
great week.